There's a small piece of paper clipped to the edge of a shelf in your Walmart right now. It's been there your entire life in one form or another. It has a number printed on it, and that number sits still. It sits still while you walk the aisle, while you stand there doing the math, while you go get your kid and come back. It cannot change. It's paper. That paper is being removed from every Walmart in America, not loudly, not in a way that made the evening news. In its place goes a small electronic screen that can be updated wirelessly from a central system in about 2 seconds. Roughly 2,300 stores already have them. By the end of this year, the plan is every single one of the company's 4,600 locations, 120,000 products per store, each one carrying a number that used to be physically stuck to a shelf and now lives on a screen someone can change from an office. And here's what actually happened when Americans found out. It wasn't a debate. There was no gradual conversation, no weighing of pros and cons. Within hours of the news breaking, a thread about it climbed to the very top of one of the internet's biggest news forums, and the reaction was near unanimous, and it was furious. Lawmakers started asking questions, and Walmart immediately began doing something a company only does when it knows exactly what people are thinking. It started reassuring everyone that it wouldn't do the thing nobody had accused it of doing yet. So the real story here isn't the price tag. It's what 100 million Americans instantly, automatically, without needing a single piece of evidence, assumed the price tag was for. And by the end of this, you'll understand why that assumption tells you more about the state of this country than any tag on any shelf ever could. Because something has to be badly broken before a company can tell the truth and have absolutely nobody believe it. Let's start by being fair, because the case for these tags is real and it's worth hearing properly. This isn't a sinister invention, it's a screen. And the practical argument for it is genuinely strong. Think about what a Walmart worker used to do every week. Walk the store with a stack of paper, find each item, pull the old tag, clip in the new one, across 120,000 products. A job that took 2 full days now takes a few minutes. One team leader at a store in Ohio said the digital labels cut the time she spent on pricing duties by about 75%, and that the hours she got back went into actually helping customers, which is the thing everyone always complains there isn't enough of. The tags also cut down on errors, which is the single most consumer-friendly thing about them. Every one of us has had that experience where the shelf says one price and the register says another, and you're standing there arguing about $1.40. That gap shrinks when the shelf and the register are wired to the same system. And this isn't even new. Whole Foods has had these since 2016, Kroger since 2018. So the honest summary is that Walmart is adopting a decade-old technology that saves labor, cuts errors, and makes the shelf match the till. On paper, everybody wins. Now here's why that matters, and it's not the reason you'd expect. Because every word of that is true, and it changed nothing. The country heard all of it and reacted like it had just been threatened. That reaction is the actual event. And look closely at what people actually asked for, because it's more revealing than the anger itself. The single most upvoted response in that whole furious thread wasn't a threat, or a boycott, or a demand that the tags be banned. It was a proposal for a rule. Regulate these things the way digital signs at gas stations are regulated. Limit how many times a day the price can change, and make the price on the tag the price you pay. That's it. That's the ask. Sit with how modest it is for a second, because it's devastating. These weren't people demanding paperback or rejecting technology. They were asking, essentially, to keep the one guarantee the old piece of paper gave them for free and never had to promise, because it physically couldn't do anything else. The most popular idea in a national outburst of rage was a request to formally legislate a thing that was simply true last year by default, without anyone having to think about it. That's not a mob, that's a country noticing something is about to be lost and trying to write it down before it goes. So let's look at the fear itself and be precise about it, because it isn't vague. The worry is one specific word: surge pricing. The thing airlines and rideshare apps do, where the price of the same seat, the same ride, jumps the moment demand does, and people looked at a price tag that can change in 2 seconds and made the leap in about 1 second, because the leap isn't hard. If it's raining, the ride costs more. If it's hot, why wouldn't the water? And here's the part that should stop you, because the fear didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of the industry's own mouth. A well-known grocery analyst discussing this exact technology explained the possibilities out loud. If it's hot outside, we can raise the price of water and ice cream. If something's near its expiration date, we can lower the price, and that's the good news. Read that again. Because he wasn't warning anybody. He was describing the feature. The good news was the second half. The first half, raising the price of water on a hot day, was just stated calmly as a thing the technology now allows. The customers didn't invent this idea. They heard it described, and they believed what they heard. And they'd been primed for it, which is the part that gets forgotten. This didn't arrive in a vacuum. Not long before, a major fast food chain floated the idea of pricing that moved with demand, and the reaction was so violent, so immediate, that the company spent days insisting everyone had misunderstood, that it was about lowering prices during slow hours, not raising them at lunch. Maybe that was true. It didn't matter. The country had already heard the quiet part, and had filed it away. So by the time a screen appeared on a grocery shelf, Americans weren't reasoning from nothing. They were reasoning from a pattern they'd watched form in public, one company at a time. Rideshare apps taught them that a price can punish you for needing something at a bad moment. Airlines taught them that the person in the next seat paid a different number, and a burger chain taught them that the idea has already reached food. So when the technology that would make it possible on groceries showed up, nobody needed to be convinced of anything. They'd been shown the trajectory in installments for years. If you've noticed these tags in your own store and felt something tighten in your chest that you couldn't quite justify, drop it in the comments. I read every one, and I think people need to see how many others had the exact same reaction. Now let's be rigorous, because this is where most videos on this topic lie to you, and I'm not going to. Is it actually happening? No. And the evidence on that is fairly clear. There's no indication any major grocer is surge pricing food. Walmart has said flatly that the price on the shelf is the same for everyone in a given store. It told the Financial Times it has no plans for dynamic pricing. It says the price updates are still led by people, that employees review and push approved changes through a secure system, and that they typically do it outside of shopping hours specifically so the price stays stable while you're standing in the aisle. And here's the fact that ought to be the end of the story. One firm that tracks this found that 53% of Walmart's price changes last year were markdowns. More than half of all the changes went down. The pricing expert who reported that number put her finger on the whole problem in one sentence. Roughly half of all price changes are decreases, but if you ask shoppers, they assume dynamic pricing means one thing only: higher prices whenever the store thinks it can get away with it. So the tag is mostly being used to cut prices, and the public is convinced it's a weapon. That gap right there is what this video is actually about. But before anyone accuses me of carrying water for a retailer, there's a fact on the other side that Walmart cannot explain away, and it's the reason the suspicion isn't stupid. The company recently secured 2 patents related to this shelf label technology. One of them describes a system driven by artificial intelligence that analyzes purchasing patterns in order to suggest price adjustments. Walmart's response is that the tool is meant for managing discounts, and that may well be entirely true. But hold both of these facts in your head at the same time, because both are real. We have no plans to do dynamic pricing, and also, we have patented an AI system that studies how people buy in order to recommend what to charge. Those two statements can coexist honestly. A company can build a capability it doesn't currently intend to use, but you cannot then be baffled when the public looks at the second sentence and quietly decides the first one has an expiration date. That's not paranoia. It's reading. And there's a quieter thing about these labels that almost nobody has thought about, which is that a screen is not a tag. A tag does one thing. A screen is a channel, and it can be given new jobs at any time without anyone replacing a single piece of hardware. That isn't speculation. It's already happening in small ways. The same Walmart employee who praised the time savings mentioned another feature almost in passing, that the delivery drivers picking your online order can make a label flash so they can find the product faster. Think about what that actually means. The shelf now signals. It has an output beyond the number. It can be told to draw your eye or somebody else's at a moment of someone else's choosing. Today, that's a helpful blink to help a worker find the cereal. But the capability is not the blink. The capability is that the shelf edge became a screen someone else controls in a building you walk through with your money. Nobody has to be planning anything for that to be a meaningful change in what a store is. There's a duller risk too, and it's the one the industry itself flags. When every label is wired to a central system, an error stops being a small local mistake. One bad entry, one wrong size, one mispriced promotion, and it doesn't sit on one shelf in one store where a worker catches it. It propagates instantly across a whole store or a whole region. The old way was slow and clumsy and full of human error, and that slowness was accidentally a safety feature. A mistake could only travel as fast as a person with a stack of paper. Now everything moves at the speed of the network, and that cuts both ways, and only one of those ways gets advertised. And this is where you have to understand something about groceries specifically, because people aren't irrational about this. They're consistent. Behavioral researchers have a name for what's going on, and it's called dual entitlement. It works like this. People will accept a price increase if they believe it reflects a real increase in cost. Wheat got expensive, so bread got expensive. Fine, that's fair, that's the deal. What people will not accept is a price that goes up because the seller detected that they wanted it more. That's not cost, that's leverage. And on necessities, on food, on the things a family cannot decline to buy, using leverage doesn't read as business. It reads as exploitation, because that's precisely what it is. This is why nobody riots about airline seats. You expect that number to move, and if it moves too far, you stay home. But the grocery store has been a fixed price institution for a century. The number on that shelf was a promise, not a negotiation. So when a technology arrives that could turn a promise into a negotiation, the reaction isn't hysteria. It's a very clear-headed understanding of what would be lost. If this is clarifying something you've been feeling but couldn't put into words, a like helps this reach more people. Takes 1 second, and on a story everyone's dismissing as a fuss about a price tag, it matters. And now let's talk about who this actually lands on, because there's a group for whom this is not theoretical at all. If you live on a fixed income, and tens of millions of Americans do, your entire defense against a grocery store is your memory. You know what coffee costs. You know what the eggs cost last month. That knowledge is the only tool you have, and it's genuinely powerful because it lets you notice. It lets you see the change, feel the insult, switch brands, go elsewhere, adjust. A retiree walking that aisle is running a comparison engine built over 40 years, and it works precisely because the number sits still long enough to be remembered. Now imagine the number can move whenever someone in an office decides, not necessarily against you, just at all. Your memory of last week is no longer evidence of anything, because last week's number might have been a different number by Thursday. The instrument you've relied on your whole life quietly stops functioning, not because anyone lied to you, but because the thing you were measuring became fluid. That's the real senior warning here. And it doesn't require Walmart to do anything wrong at all. It only requires the number to become the kind of thing that can move. So let's get to the root of it, because the tag isn't the cause of any of this. It's a mirror. Ask yourself why the reaction was instant. It wasn't hours of debate followed by a considered conclusion. It was immediate, near universal, and it required no evidence whatsoever, and that's the tell. Because that's not what suspicion looks like. That's what a verdict already reached looks like. Americans have spent years now watching prices behave in ways nobody quite explains. They watched the box get smaller while the price stayed the same, and nobody announced that either. They watched fees get unbundled from things that used to just be included. They watched companies report record profits in the same quarter. They explained that costs forced their hand. Nobody prosecuted anyone. There is no scandal, no single moment. Just a slow, accumulating education in the idea that the number in front of you is managed, that somebody upstream is optimizing it, and that the optimization is not being done on your behalf. So by the time the screen shows up on the shelf edge, the conclusion was already sitting there, fully formed, waiting for a trigger. The tag didn't create the distrust. It just gave it something to point at. Let's make this concrete, because this only means something when it lands on a person. Picture a woman in her 70s at the store on a Tuesday morning, which is when she always goes, because it's quieter. She has a list. She has a budget that doesn't flex, and she knows to the dollar what this trip should cost, because she's been doing it for 50 years and she's very, very good at it. And she notices the little screens where the paper used to be. Nobody sent her a letter. There was no sign at the door explaining it. She just sees them, and something goes slightly cold in her, and she couldn't tell you exactly why. And if she tried to explain it to her grandson, he'd tell her correctly that they're just labels, Grandma. They save the workers time. And he'd be right. And so would she. Because what she's registering isn't a fact about prices. It's that one more piece of the world she'd learned to read has been quietly replaced with a version she can't. That's not confusion. That's someone accurately noticing that her expertise, built over half a century, just got a little less useful, and that nobody thought to mention it to her. For millions of Americans on a fixed income, that small, cold feeling in an aisle they've walked their whole lives is just a Tuesday. Now here's the part that should worry Walmart more than any of the criticism, and honestly, it's the most interesting thing in this whole story. The experts don't think Walmart will surge price groceries, not because it's illegal and not out of kindness, because it would be commercially insane. The whole company is built on a promise about low prices, and the moment shoppers believed that promise was negotiable, the brand would take damage worth more than any pricing gain. One analyst said the trust gap is the biggest risk in the entire rollout. Think about what that means. The technology is fine. The efficiency is real. Half the changes are cuts. And the biggest danger to the whole project is that nobody believes any of that. Walmart has arrived at a place where its own truthful statements no longer function, where saying we won't do this produces the same response as saying nothing at all. That's not a public relations problem. That's what it looks like when a relationship is over and only one party is noticed. And here's the uncomfortable thing about capability, the reason the reassurances land so flat even when they're sincere. Nobody in that Ohio store is plotting anything. The executive saying there are no plans for dynamic pricing probably means it exactly as stated today. But intentions are not infrastructure. The people making the promise will move on, and the hardware will still be bolted to every shelf in 4,600 stores, and the patent will still be in the drawer, and one day a quarter will come in soft, and the someone new will be sitting in that chair looking for 2%. That's what people are actually responding to. Not an accusation about now, a recognition that a door has been installed in a wall that used to be solid, and doors get opened eventually by somebody for a reason that will sound perfectly sensible at the time. The paper tag's whole virtue is that it made a promise unnecessary. You didn't have to trust Walmart not to change the number while you walked to the register because Walmart couldn't. Once it can, you're relying on a promise instead, and this country has recently gotten a very thorough education in what those are worth. So let's go back to that little piece of paper on the shelf edge, the one that's about to be gone from every store in America. Now you know what it actually was. It wasn't just a number. It was a commitment you could see. That couldn't be quietly edited while you stood there. Its whole value was that it was stuck, and it's being replaced by something better in almost every measurable way, by a company that has said plainly and possibly honestly that it won't use it against you. And not one person believes it. That's the story. Not what Walmart is going to do with the tags. What Americans already know about how they're treated, so thoroughly that they didn't need 5 minutes to decide. These aren't customers being paranoid about a screen. They're customers who learned, over a very long time and with very good reason, what to expect and are simply applying it. And it will keep working this way for a simple reason. As long as prices behave in ways nobody explains, as long as the box shrinks and the fee appears and the profit rises while the costs are blamed, then every new capability will be read as a weapon, whether or not it ever gets used as one. The company can be telling the truth. It doesn't matter anymore. That's the thing that was actually spent quietly over years, and it's the one thing no technology on any shelf can restore. Whether that trust ever comes back isn't a question of price tags or patents or promises. It's a question of whether the number ever behaves in a way that earns the benefit of the doubt again. And right now, in an aisle near you, nobody is giving it. So I'll leave you with the honest question. If a company you shop at every week told you it wouldn't raise your prices unfairly, would you believe it? Be honest with yourself about the answer, and then ask when exactly you stopped. Drop it below. I read every one.